That day, my friend organized a birthday party and dragged me along to a bar for drinks. Who knew we would run into a sudden inspection? I was still grumbling and sighing about who was unlucky when I was dragged along and arrested. The person in charge of the interrogation turned out to be none other than my wife, Elena. I had just finished eating birthday cake when suddenly a team of police officers rushed into the bar. The leader immediately yelled, "Everyone follow us to the station for questioning." What the heck? At home, I'm a good, standard husband. I finally managed to attend a friend's birthday while my wife was away on a business trip. And I run right into this. I immediately ran up to the captain to beg. "Sir, this is my first time here, and I didn't do anything. Please let me go. If my wife finds out I was wandering the streets past curfew, she'll break my legs, no joke." The captain was unmoved. "Everyone cooperate with the interrogation. Only then can you leave." And so, I was taken back to the station, sitting there shaking like a criminal. Back when I watched TV, I thought people like this were so shameful. Now, I'm in the same predicament, but I'm truly innocent. My wife is a cop. How dare I do anything illegal? I was wondering why they arrested so many people when suddenly a familiar voice rang out in the interrogation room. I was huddled miserably in the corner when I was startled. I looked up. Oh my God, it's my wife, Elena. I was so scared I put my hands over my head, ducked between my legs, and didn't dare utter a sound. Elena and I were high school and middle school classmates. After graduating from college, we coincidentally went down the same path. Due to pressure from both families, we quickly got married without much prior relationship. Honestly, there wasn't much deep affection between us. Not to mention any sweet romantic talk. She visited my family for 10 days, half a month, sometimes even longer. A subordinate reported the situation to Elena. She scanned the room once, didn't seem to notice me, took the documents, and left. I was sitting in the very last corner. By the time it was my turn to be interrogated, the room was almost empty. But this was the first time in my life I'd been here. Plus, my wife worked here, so I was incredibly nervous. The interrogator asked, "What is your name?" I replied, "Ryan." The interrogator continued to ask, "Why were you at that bar?" I stubbornly answered, "I was truly wronged. It was just my friend's birthday. I only had 2 drinks. I just want to be released quickly." Just then, the door opened. Elena walked in again, holding documents. The moment she saw me, both of us froze. But her composure was stronger. She quickly regained her calm. Without saying a word, she sat down on the chair next to me, calmly flipping through her documents. Sitting right next to me was my wife. How could I possibly stay calm and answer the interrogation? I suspected she deliberately sat next to me, pretending not to know anything. Sitting on pins and needles, I didn't dare say a single word. I secretly glanced over. She sat opposite the interrogator, head lowered, examining her documents, completely ignoring me. Elena, the wife who wouldn't even look at me once. I was truly afraid she would feel embarrassed because of me, so I didn't dare call her. The interrogator next to me, oblivious, patted my shoulder and laughed. What a coincidence. My wife is also named Elena. After half an hour of questioning, the interrogator smiled and said, "You're an interesting guy. All right, call your family to come pick you up." I sneakily looked at Elena from the corner of my eye. "Can I not call?" The interrogator coldly asked back, "What do you think?" I was on the verge of tears. Looking at Elena for a moment, I softly called out, "Elena." Elena raised the document folder. I thought she was going to hit me. I quickly bowed my head and explained, "Wife, trust me, I just went to a birthday party." The 2 interrogators were stunned. "Chief Elena is your wife?" Elena put the document folder down, coldly saying, "Sign here." On my file, the signature section for the relative was filled with 3 big characters. Elena. Honestly, what I feared most was her calm demeanor, as if it signaled an impending storm. We left the station together. I hurriedly smiled warmly. "Wife, I can go home myself. Why don't you continue working? Don't let me bother you." She glanced at me, replying, "You are more bothersome than those people inside." Then she drove me home. Upon arriving home, I was subjected to another interrogation. Elena sat opposite me, looking at her phone, her tone indifferent. "It's 4 a.m. Tell me, what time did you leave the house?" I mumbled, "A little after 10 p.m. She often works overtime and doesn't come home, but she still set a curfew for me to be home before 9:30 p.m. "You don't remember a single thing I said." I was full of grievances. "It's precisely because I remember what you said that I'm suffering like this. Married for 3 years, no public announcement, strict curfews, and banned from crowded places, especially bars. I don't need this marriage anymore." Anger surging, I jumped up. "I want a divorce." She looked at me, a hint of surprise flashing across her face. What did you say? I repeated the two words. Divorce. Elena stared intently at me, asking again, Are there really bitches outside? I nodded furiously. All kinds of bitches. She stood up, her face showing disbelief, as if comforting a child. She stroked my head, gently saying, Don't make a fuss. Tomorrow, I'll take you out. I suddenly felt half my anger subside. Looking up at her, I confirmed, Elena, you mean it? She replied, I mean it. Elena had never truly argued with me. Every time I got angry, she would just coax me with a few words, making me feel like I was throwing an unreasonable tantrum. But I was always easily reconciled because I had secretly liked her for a long time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have so easily agreed to such a rushed marriage, without even holding a wedding ceremony. The next morning, I woke up at 11 a.m. Elena was already gone. I opened my phone and saw a message she sent at 9 a.m. Sorry, I have a sudden emergency assignment today. I can't go out with you. I'll take you next time. After reading it, I wanted to throw my phone. Furious, I immediately blocked Elena's number. Elena comes from a wealthy family. Her father manages a large enterprise. Yet, for some reason, she chose not to live a comfortable life of enjoyment. Meanwhile, I studied fine arts in college and became an illustrator after graduation. My voice is quite good, so I occasionally voice acted for audio dramas. With all this, I've saved up a decent amount of money over the years. Today, Elena's mother, Diana, came to visit me. She even brought a gift, a watch and a red bean bracelet. My relationship with my mother-in-law wasn't very good. Perhaps it was because Elena and I got married too quickly. Plus, my family's financial background wasn't equal to theirs, so she never took this marriage seriously from the beginning. But throughout our 3 years of marriage, even without children, I gradually gained my mother-in-law's acceptance. This was all thanks to my own efforts, as Elena was always too busy and never had time to mediate the relationship between her mother and me. I poured a warm glass of milk and offered it to my mother-in-law. She accepted it, glanced at me and smiled, asking, Ryan, I saw Elena return home, didn't I? I was surprised, drinking my milk and looking at her. Mom, how did you know? My mother-in-law chuckled incessantly. Look at your neck. I couldn't help it, the milk in my mouth choked me, and I spat it straight onto my mother-in-law's face. Seeing the white milk stream down her exquisite face, I froze, not knowing what to do. Reacting, I quickly pulled out a napkin to wipe her face. My face contorted as if I were about to cry. Mom, I didn't mean to. My mother-in-law is someone who cares deeply about her appearance. Yet, instead of getting angry, she calmly took the napkin from my hand and wiped her face. It's okay, it's okay. I believe it won't be long until I can hold my grandchild. It had been nearly half a month since I last saw Elena after she drove me home. During this time, I took on a voice acting role in an audio drama adapted from a comic book. The main characters in that comic were drawn by me, so I felt even more dedicated, even if it was just voice acting. An actor must be professional. This afternoon, I had a recording session, so I arrived early. Suddenly, a girl sat right next to me. Lynn Ran tilted her head, the corner of her mouth curling slightly. Brother, we've been working together for half a month. Can I have your contact information now? Honestly, among all the female voice actors I've collaborated with, Lynn Ran is the most beautiful, exactly my type. I immediately agreed. Sure. Her lips curved further, her eyes holding a hint of calculation. Then see you soon. I didn't expect her to be so direct, startled me into swallowing my saliva. I'm married. Lynn Ran looked a little disappointed. Oh, really? I got home at 10 p.m., half an hour past the curfew Elena set. But since she was often away for half a month, I wasn't too worried. As soon as I stepped inside, I was surprised to find her actually sitting on the sofa, staring intently at her phone. Her posture was perfectly straight and serious. I suddenly remembered that I had blocked Elena's number. Although she had called days ago asking me to unblock her, I deliberately didn't. Thinking of this, I panicked, instinctively turning and running straight for the bedroom. Elena frowned, calling my name out clearly, word by word. Ryan. My legs wouldn't stop. I muttered as I ran. I have a stomachache. But she quickly caught up, grabbed my collar, and dragged me straight into the bedroom. Being subdued by a female police officer is truly unpleasant. Elena pushed me onto the bed, skillfully twisted my arm behind my back, and gently explained, Today was really an emergency assignment. I understand her job, but honestly, a wife who isn't often by my side sometimes makes me feel very lonely. Just then, a familiar voice rang out from her phone. I was startled. Wasn't that the flirting dialogue from the audio drama I recently voiced? My face flushed with embarrassment. I quickly glanced up at Elena's reaction. I saw her frowning deeper. She turned off her phone and asked plainly, Are you short on money recently? I shook my head. No, I'm not. Elena looked at me, her eyes indifferent, neither angry nor jealous. She just said flatly, then don't do these kinds of jobs anymore. Her words made me uncomfortable. Voice acting is a job I love, and her imposition angered me, but I forced myself to hold back. Why not? Elena coldly replied, I don't like it. I laughed out of anger. Well, I don't like your job either. I don't hate the police profession, but in her position as a chief, her schedule is clearly more demanding than regular police officers. Although I try to be understanding, honestly, I am not generous enough to accept a marriage where my life is no different from that of a single person. Eating alone, sleeping alone, watching movies alone. When I'm sick, I have to go to the hospital and get in 4 drip by myself. There's no one to talk to or share with. Elena just looked at me silently, not saying a word. I thought for a moment, still wanting to save this marriage, so I suggested, Elena, how about you quit your job and work at your father's company? She looked at me with cold indifference, then stood up and sat aside. I can't quit my job. My heart sank halfway. Actually, I just wanted to say that if she was willing to give up her current job for me, I would also give up the job I love for her. But she didn't even bother to consider it. I stayed silent for a while, then said, Your mother mentioned wanting a grandchild. Elena briefly looked down, then calmly replied, It's true that my parents should have a grandchild now. I immediately asked back, So what after the child is born? Do you expect a man like me to stay home and take care of the child? Elena smiled slightly, with a hint of helplessness. We can hire a nanny then. You're overthinking it. I couldn't stand it and continued to question her. Leaving a child for a whole month without seeing their mother a few times, is that okay? My question started to annoy her. She abruptly stood up from the bed, speaking in an irritated tone. Ryan, my job is like this. I will not quit. You have to accept it, whether you like it or not. I looked up at her and argued back. You say I have to accept it, whether I like it or not. Then let's get a divorce. She looked at me helplessly, covered her forehead with her hand, and said softly, Can you stop threatening me with divorce all the time? I rarely get to come home once. Can we not fight? I gave a cold laugh. Didn't you say your job is like this? I can't stand it. Let's get a divorce. Elena's deep gaze stared intently at me. She didn't say a word, then turned and left the room. I had angered her into leaving, and she didn't contact me for several days. To be honest, I truly thought about divorce when I brought it up. But thinking about how many years I had secretly loved her, I couldn't bear to give up this marriage so easily. In my confused state, I went for a walk alone at the mall. I coincidentally ran into my close high school friend, Ethan. Ethan was embracing his girlfriend. Seeing me, he smiled and greeted me. Brother, why are you walking alone? You know the answer, why ask? I glared at him. You tell me. Ethan gave an awkward laugh. That's right. Sister-in-law is busy with work. Sometimes she doesn't even have time to eat. Who knows, she always has to face missions, and they're full of danger. I always knew Elena's profession was dangerous, especially for a girl. But hearing someone else say it, I couldn't help but feel a chill down my spine. Suddenly, I felt regretting the argument I had with Elena. I stayed silent for a long time, then asked a secret I hadn't known for years. I remember her academic performance was always excellent before. But why did she choose the police academy when she went to college? Do you know the reason? Ethan was very surprised that I asked this. You don't know. I looked bewildered. No. Ethan scratched his head. Back in 12th grade, she had a close male friend. He was tall, handsome, and looked very lovable. I heard they were dating one evening but ran into 2 robbers. I didn't know Elena had a boyfriend in 12th grade. I only remembered she was very close to a guy. Suddenly, an indescribable bitter feeling rose in my heart. Ethan continued, That guy was beaten badly while protecting her. I heard that when they found him, his condition was terrible. After that, no one heard anything about him again. It seemed like he passed away. I laughed self-deprecatingly. So, Elena studied at the police academy because of that guy, right? Yeah, that's right. Ethan nodded, looking hesitantly at my pale face. Realizing he had said something he shouldn't have, he quickly comforted me. Brother, don't take it too hard. It happened a long time ago. What's there to be afraid of? Sister-in-law must have forgotten that guy long ago. I forced a smile at Ethan. Yeah, I won't take it hard. I won't take it hard. That was a lie. She chose the police academy because of that guy. But why should my marriage become a sacrifice for their love? I had thought about divorce before, but couldn't bear to leave Elena. However, this story completely dissolved my hesitation. I called Elena. She answered very quickly, but at that moment, I didn't know what to say. I wanted to ask her if she had a boyfriend, but felt it was unnecessary. The story about that guy must be an untouchable trauma in her heart. Why aren't you saying anything? Elena asked proactively, her voice rarely sounding so gentle. I looked at the screen of my phone, which had just disconnected the call. Even if I love her, that doesn't mean I have to accept this marriage as a sacrifice for her ex-boyfriend. This world is not short of gentle women who know how to care for a family. Seeing that Elena wouldn't agree to a divorce, I went to her mother for help. I want to divorce Elena. As soon as I finished speaking, her mother immediately spat out the mouthful of tea she had just taken. What? I took a deep breath and repeated. I want to divorce her. I don't agree. An angry voice rang out. Elena stepped in from outside, her voice strained through clenched teeth. I was suddenly frightened, my hands and feet trembling. Tea spilled everywhere on the ground. I was so scared I quickly tried to run away. But I forgot that my mother-in-law was still tightly gripping my hand. She held on so tightly that I fell back onto the sofa. Mom, I stammered, my eyes frantically looking at Elena. Her cold face was steadily advancing toward me. I wanted to cry but had no tears, softly pleading. Mom, let me go. But my mother-in-law calmly took a sip of tea, as if she hadn't heard anything. Mom, Kevin and I are just having a slight misunderstanding. He's just angry at me right now. I'll handle it myself. You don't need to worry. Elena said this in front of her mother, pulling me up from the sofa. My mother-in-law let go of my hand and smiled kindly. That's good. I secretly rejoiced, thinking my mother-in-law truly cared for me and treated me like her own son. I intended to still visit her often, even after divorcing Elena. But in reality, like mother, like daughter. Elena dragged me into the room, closed the door, and started to settle the score with me. Don't even dream about it. Elena looked at me coldly, her voice so firm it was impossible to refute. Facing her icy gaze, my heart grew cold, as if falling into an ice cellar. She rarely spoke to me with such a cold attitude. Actually, Elena and I didn't rush into marriage due to pressure from our parents. I agreed because I had secretly loved her since school. But she agreed to marry me purely because of pressure from her parents, wanting to find an obedient, sensible husband. For the past 3 years, I had truly been very obedient and sensible. Only last month did I mistakenly go to a bar once and get wrongly arrested by the police station. I once thought that marrying the person I loved, even if they didn't love me, I would be willing to live with them for a lifetime. But the human heart is always greedy. Once obtained, one can never be fully satisfied. I spoke up, my voice calm. I've been emotionally cheating. I didn't dare say physically, afraid she'd throw me directly into jail for a few years. In reality, our rushed marriage had very little affection. You don't like me, and I don't love you. I choked up, swallowing my anguish, and looked up at her. Therefore, I already have someone I like outside. Is it wrong to regret marrying you? Elena was silently still for a few seconds. She bit her lip and reached out her hand towards me. I immediately squeezed my eyes shut, thinking she was going to slap me. But she only reached out and stroked my neck, gently asking, "Who is the person you like?" I thought for a moment. There was no other woman I was frequently in contact with, only the female voice actors I had collaborated with before. And the only woman I'd interacted with closely recently was Lynn Ran. Lynn Ran, the female lead in the audio drama I'm working on. Is that her? I looked at her suspiciously. But how did you know she was the female lead in that drama? Ryan, I listened to all of your voice acting works. My mouth twitched. So, you also listened to the slightly ambiguous parts in the audio drama, right? After divorcing Elena, I moved closer to my workplace, renting a decent house. She gave me a sum of money, $100,000. I accepted it. A person should be practical. It would be a waste not to take the money. Only a fool wouldn't take it. After the divorce, I didn't grieve for too long. After all, this wasn't a decision I stubbornly insisted on. It's just that I was confident enough to rush into marriage with her at the time, only for this marriage to end in just 3 years. It was a little regrettable. I returned to the recording studio for voice acting. It was the most heartbreaking scene in the audio drama. The female lead is truly a beautiful, madwoman. After the scene ended, Lynn Ran took off her headphones and smiled at me. Ryan, your voice acting is amazing. That was so emotional. I really hope we can collaborate again next time. I looked at her. How old are you? Lynn Ran handed me a wet wipe. 24. I wiped my face and asked her, I'm only 1 year older than you. How did you know I was older? Lynn Ran smiled meaningfully. I asked the director after I started paying attention to you. That's how I found out what year you were born. I am inherently good at conversation. I raised an eyebrow at Lynn Ran. Why were you paying attention to me? Do you like me, perhaps? After all, I'm divorced now. No curfew, no constraints. I want to live a little more comfortably. Lynn Ran shook her head. I wouldn't dare have that thought now. I'm afraid your wife would run over and hit me. Mentioning Elena, the smile on my face faltered slightly. I looked down, filled with loneliness. Lin Ran noticed my change in mood and carefully asked, "What's wrong, Ryan?" I looked at Lin Ran. "I'm divorced. It's been over a week now." Just thinking about Elena still made my heart ache. Lin Ran was surprised. That quickly. She led me to a bar to drown my sorrows. Since this was my first time experiencing standing outside a bar's entrance, I cautiously asked, "Lin Ran, is this bar reputable?" Lin Ran's eyes sparkled, looking straight at me. "Do you have any special requests, Ryan?" I looked down at her hand, gripping mine. I quickly shook her hand off. Just this action made me suspect that she had already heard the news of my divorce. Lin Ran is quite interesting. She cares about me now that I'm divorced and is always trying to make me laugh to cheer me up. Suddenly, I saw two people walk into the bar. The smile on my face immediately froze. One of those two people was Elena. She wasn't wearing her police uniform but a comfortable tracksuit. She also saw Lin Ran and me. We stared at each other for a few seconds before I quickly looked away. When I secretly looked back at Elena, she was already sitting at the bar counter, chatting with another man. She forbade me from coming to bars, yet she comes here and enjoys herself. Lin Ran glanced at Elena and asked, "Is that your wife?" I took a gulp of the red wine on the table, saying angrily, "Ex-wife only." Even though we were divorced, I still couldn't stop paying attention to her. I secretly watched her, seeing her smiling brightly and chatting with a handsome guy. My heart ached again, as if something was squeezing it tightly. She never seemed to smile that happily with me. I scoffed at myself, taking a big gulp of wine. "Ryan, stop drinking." Lin Ran, seeing me drink non-stop, tried to snatch the glass from my hand. I evaded her, saying, "Don't worry about me." I continued to drink glass after glass. My mind started to blur. I tried to hold on to my last bit of consciousness, looking at Lin Ran, and muttered vaguely, "You have to help me, okay? If I get drunk and do something wrong to you, remember to wake me up." With that, I passed out. When I woke up, I felt like I was in a hotel. I saw Elena's familiar face, but then realized, no, it's not her, it's Lin Ran. My head was throbbing. I held my forehead, groaning uncomfortably. I feel terrible. Why am I imagining her here? My mouth felt dry. I looked towards Lin Ran. She helped me pour a glass of water. But after drinking too much, my stomach felt uncomfortable and burning. I couldn't help but vomit. Coincidentally, it seems I had vomited all over Lin Ran. When I woke up again, I noticed my clothes were gone. I was only wearing pajamas. I was startled. Just as I was about to scold Lin Ran for the inexplicable situation, I saw someone beside my bed. Oh my God, don't tell me I got drunk last night and messed around with Lin Ran? My head ached. Worriedly, I gently reached out and touched Lin Ran. How could this happen? If I had known, I wouldn't have drunk so much. I sighed, thinking, what's done is done. I need to calm down. Anyway, Lin Ran isn't bad. She's attractive. Exactly my type. As a divorced man, I have nothing to fear. I patted Lin Ran's shoulder, trying to reassure myself. "Don't worry, I'll take responsibility for you." Suddenly, she grabbed my wrist, her eyes cold as she looked at me and asked, "Take responsibility for whom?" When I looked up, I was surprised and immediately startled. I panicked and quickly hugged the blanket tightly, backing away. "Elena, why is it you?" Elena sat up, giving me a cold smile. "Disappointed? It's not your Lin Ran." I pushed her hand away, angrily saying, "Elena, we're divorced. You're a police officer, yet you're committing a crime. I'm going to sue you." Elena looked at me with disdain, her gaze sweeping over me from top to bottom. "Don't worry, you were so drunk, you didn't have the strength to do anything." But my body, the obvious arousal, wouldn't let me believe her words. Nonsense. I gritted my teeth, trying to stand up, but my whole body was sore. Elena sighed, with a hint of helplessness. "It's probably because you haven't exercised in a long time, idiot." She didn't forget to care for me, preparing a new set of clothes. After I washed up and changed, I walked out of the room and saw breakfast and dessert laid out on the dining table. Although I was hungry, seeing that she hadn't invited me, I felt awkward. Sitting down, I asked her, "Where is Lin Ran? Why did you bring me to the hotel?" Elena looked at me indifferently. "You held onto my hand at the bar all night, didn't you?" A feeling of emptiness rushed over me. I tried to recall, why would I hold her hand? Elena smiled. "Do you want to know what you said?" I started to feel embarrassed but was still curious. "What did I say?" Elena stood up, walked closer to me, and looked down with a slight smile. "You said you regretted it, that you shouldn't have divorced, and that you couldn't leave me." My heart grew increasingly sour. I didn't want to admit it, but I couldn't deny it either. Elena continued, "You also said that you love me. I just want to say, if I've sinned, just kill me. Don't let Elena appear and punish me like this." I tried to act calm, looked at her and said, "Don't joke. It was just nonsense. You don't have to believe it." Elena smiled, the corner of her lips slightly raised. "I've only heard people say that the truth comes out when you drink." I was tense, not knowing what to do, and didn't want to argue anymore. I almost fell into her chest, unconsciously hugging her tightly. "What are you doing?" I was annoyed, wanting to shout. Elena just glanced at me, then coldly said, "Eat first, then leave." I said nothing, just quietly sat down at the dining table. For the first time, I felt Elena seemed so gentle and considerate. But as I was eating, one of her sentences made me stop. "Let's remarry." My hand, holding the piece of bread, involuntarily clenched hard. I looked at her for a moment, then looked away. "Remarry? We've only been divorced for less than a month. What's the point of the divorce then?" Elena sighed, her voice slightly helpless. "I know my job means I rarely come home, causing you a lot of hardship. From now on, I promise I will come home more often to keep you company, okay?" She placed peeled shrimp onto my plate, looked at me and said, "Give me a chance." Elena smiled, the corners of her mouth curving ambiguously. Not wearing her police uniform, she looked serious and formal yet also gentle like water. Just like in high school, when I had a secret crush on her. But she liked another boy. I wasn't jealous of her, but I was jealous that she gave up better academic prospects for that boy, joining the police academy and becoming a chief of police. How much love does it take to give up one's career path? It must be deep, unforgettable love. I wasn't generous enough to accept that. I pushed the plate of shrimp towards her, bowing my head to eat bread. "I don't like shrimp anymore. I like spicy stir-fried squid. My taste has changed. I can't eat things I don't like." Elena looked at the shrimp, was silent for a few seconds, then looked up at me and smiled. "Then I will make spicy stir-fried squid for you, okay?" Elena had no sense of humor, so her offer surprised me. I couldn't help but look up at her. There's no sweetness if you force it, but even the bitterest taste can be dipped in sugar. I didn't know what else to say. This meeting at the hotel was the last time I saw Elena. But I stayed in contact with my ex-mother-in-law, who always mentioned Elena's name as if afraid I would forget. She was genuinely busy, and so was I, busy with work and overtime, completing the audio drama recording. After 2 months of recording, the work was finally complete. The director suggested we go to a bar to celebrate. A bar again. I was truly scared of such places now. I always felt nothing good happened when I went there. On the way, sitting in the back seat with Lynn Ran, I couldn't help but ask her, recalling Elena taking me to the hotel. "Why didn't you stop Elena from taking me to the hotel?" Lynn Ran smiled faintly. "I wanted to, but she glared at me. I didn't dare." I asked again, "Did I say anything inappropriate while drunk?" Lynn Ran nodded. I felt deeply ashamed. It seemed what Elena said was true. Lynn Ran looked at me meaningfully. "At the bar, you cursed her out, calling her a jerk, a bad woman, and untrustworthy. You even said you were an idiot for marrying her." I looked at Lynn Ran in shock. "I really cursed her out?" Lynn Ran nodded. "Yes. Your face was black as ink, but she just hugged you tightly and dragged you away, so I didn't dare get near. Elena, this girl, is truly crazy when she drinks." I didn't dare get drunk at the bar again. During the celebration, my ex-mother-in-law called to report that Elena was severely injured on duty and hospitalized. Logically, her life or death had nothing to do with me anymore. But upon hearing the news, I felt my heart clearly clench, as if a whip had struck it. The pain went deep. My fingertips even twitched a little. Thinking of how well my ex-mother-in-law treated me, I decided to visit the willful Elena. At the hospital, Elena's parents were waiting outside the room. "Mom, Dad, why aren't you going in? Is she okay?" I still called them Mom and Dad. My ex-mother-in-law treated me like her own son. My ex-mother-in-law looked touched. "She's resting. The bleeding has stopped." They looked away from me. I forced myself to remain calm, walked closer to the room, and quietly asked, "How are you?" A knife wound on my back. "I'm fine." Then Elena reached out and took my hand, smiling as she asked, "Why did you come here?" Just as I opened my mouth to say something, Elena chuckled softly. "Is it because you were worried about me?" The words I intended to say were instantly choked back. I took a deep breath and coldly replied, "I came to see if the King of Hell had accepted you yet. If you're gone, I'll burn some more paper offerings for you." She burst out laughing. "Why didn't I ever know your mouth was so poisonous?" I shrugged. "There are many things you don't know." A careless remark that instantly dampened my mood. Like the fact that I had a secret crush on her throughout school, and she was completely oblivious. Elena's eyes were full of tenderness. She said, "Then from now on, I will definitely find out everything about you." I knew she was implying remarriage, but I didn't answer. I feigned annoyance and complained, "So severely injured, yet you talk so much." That day, because it was too late, I stayed overnight at the hospital. Early the next morning, as I was about to leave, Elena's voice rang out from behind. "Give me 2 years, okay?" I stopped, not understanding her meaning. I turned back with a confused look. "What?" Elena said, "In 2 years, I will be wholeheartedly yours, always by your side." I could hear the firmness in her voice. Elena wanted me to give her 2 years, after which she would give up all her work and be by my side like a normal person. I was still hesitating whether to agree when the hospital room door opened. The person who walked in was Officer Shi, who had arrested me before. He carried a basket of fruit. He was accompanied by the man who had been with Elena at the bar. They approached and asked concernedly, "Chief, are you all right?" Elena calmly replied about her injury. "I'm fine, just a small wound." One of the officers spoke up. "The drug trafficking group has now been completely arrested." Elena nodded slightly. "Good that they were caught." Then, the 2 officers walked up to me, scratching their heads awkwardly. "Sir, we sincerely apologize for any offense before." I glanced at Elena, the corners of her mouth holding a cryptic smile. Another officer added, "Mainly, that bar was secretly conducting illegal transactions, so we were worried about missing a key suspect." I shook my head slightly. "It's all right. You were just doing your job. I'm not that petty." They stayed briefly and then left. After they left, I stood silently. After a while, I still hadn't remembered that I needed to leave. Elena spoke up. "You still haven't answered what I just said." I was silent for a moment, and finally asked the burning question. "Did you go to the police academy because of a boy?" Elena looked slightly surprised, but she didn't intend to hide anything from me. She just nodded slightly. That was the answer I had guessed, but hearing Elena admit it herself, I still couldn't stop myself from feeling jealous. "Do you still love him?" Elena's eyes flashed with a hint of complexity, her expression hard to read. She looked at me. I sighed, speaking softly. "I don't want our marriage to include your memory of him." Elena looked at me suspiciously. "Are you misunderstanding something? Ethan told you very clearly." "How could I misunderstand?" I glared at her. "You liked a boy in high school. During an outing, you two were robbed. He got into trouble protecting you. You felt guilty, so you enrolled in the police academy. And now he's gone." Elena's face subtly darkened. She asked me to sit down next to her. I sat down, and she spoke. "You only got half of it right. Ethan was my neighbor in high school. Everything you know was told by Ethan." Elena continued, "That boy wasn't the one I liked. He was my cousin, my aunt's son. Currently, he is undergoing treatment in a mental hospital." I was completely unaware she had a cousin. Elena's eyes were deep like the ocean, looking straight at me. "In high school, I did genuinely like a boy. That was the person who lent me his umbrella on a rainy day and used his uniform shirt to shield himself from the rain." I stared at her, stunned. In high school, I really did lend her my umbrella. That day, the rain was heavy. As soon as I left the school gate, the rain poured down like silver spears. I saw she had no umbrella, so I impulsively gave her mine. I used my uniform shirt to cover my head and ran home. The next day, I had a high fever. I regretted lending her the umbrella then. Afterwards, I washed her uniform and returned it to her. She said, "Thank you for the umbrella. I'll pay you back with a real dog next time." I trembled, looking at Elena in disbelief. "Is what you're saying true? In high school, I had a secret crush on you, for a very long time." Elena sighed softly. "But I thought you didn't notice me." It was clearly me who didn't notice her. In the naive, cautious years of high school, who dared to actively confess their feelings. We only dared to glance secretly, afraid the other person would know we had a crush. After Elena fully recovered, we remarried. She took me to the mental hospital to visit someone. I stood by the window, seeing a young man sitting by the bed. He wasn't like the others there. He wasn't crying or shouting, he just quietly curled up on the bed, holding his body as if seeking some safety. I remembered him in high school. He was radiant and full of charisma. But now, time and illness had made him look much older and emaciated than his real age. Elena asked the doctor, "How is he doing recently?" The doctor replied, "His condition is much better. He no longer fears or panics when seeing people. He also doesn't hide under the bed anymore." Elena nodded her thanks. She didn't enter immediately but stood by the window, observing him. Then, Elena told me about Yifeng's past. Yifeng started living at my house when he was 10. My relationship with him was very good. But back then, His father was a drug addict. Every time he had a craving, he would hit my aunt and Yifeng, completely draining the family's finances. My aunt couldn't bear it and eventually jumped off a building to commit suicide. His father later died after running into the street during a craving. I was speechless, staring at the young man huddled on the bed. His childhood was filled with misfortune. Elena continued, but in high school, he had to go through another terrible incident. That day, because he listened to me and went out for dinner, he got into trouble. When the robbers attacked, he chose to protect me, and was beaten so badly his mind was never the same. Since then, I have always tormented myself. Why did I ask him out that evening? Why did he choose to protect me? I looked at Elena, clearly seeing the pain in her eyes. She continued, because of this guilt, I gave up my initial university dream to enroll in the police academy. I hugged her tightly, tears welling up in my eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you suffered so much pain and regret. I'm truly sorry. While Elena was enduring pain and self-torment, what was I doing? I only knew how to argue and demand a divorce. Compared to her, I was truly too selfish. Elena gently wiped the tears from my cheek. I am the one who should apologize. When everything happened, I didn't tell anyone. I just hoped that when Yifeng was discharged, he would be completely clean, unburdened. But because of that, I neglected you. Elena was not ashamed before the country, the people, or her own conscience. But when she married me, she made me suffer the loss. Elena took my hand and led me into the hospital room. The young man huddled on the bed heard the movement and slightly lifted his head. The darkness in his eyes sparked with a thin sliver of light. Elena introduced me. Yifeng, this is your brother-in-law. Yifeng looked at me, his lips trembling as if trying to say something, but no sound came out. Elena explained, I haven't brought your brother-in-law to see you because I was worried your condition was unstable and you might get agitated. Yifeng's voice was hoarse, and he struggled to say one word, my brother-in-law. That hoarse sound indicated it had been a long time since he had spoken. We were classmates in the same high school, technically friends. But I had never truly understood this boy. Hearing Yifeng call me brother-in-law, my tears immediately streamed down like a broken string of pearls. Yifeng, perhaps the gods were not kind to you, and the stars were dim. But your older sister, Elena, is your light and salvation. Elena walked over and gently pulled Yifeng up. Come, I'm taking you home. Afterwards, Elena and I held a wedding. Our wedding banquet took place at a restaurant by the sea. The sound of waves crashing provided an unforgettable, romantic atmosphere. Her wedding dress was a special design, custom ordered from a famous designer. I could see that she had put her heart and soul into this wedding. On the wedding day, Elena shed her usual police uniform and put on a pristine wedding dress. Her sweet smile, noble, and gentle beauty made me unable to take my eyes off her. At the wedding, I saw Lin Ran. I was startled when I realized she called my mother-in-law, Mom. I was confused about what was happening. Later, Elena revealed the truth. I knew my job was busy, so I asked Lin Ran to keep Mom company. I teased her, Lin Ran is so beautiful, aren't you afraid I might actually fall for her? She calmly replied, Lin Ran doesn't have the guts to mess with you. And if she did, I'd handle her. After the wedding, we took 2 months for our honeymoon. I realized that love might fade over time, but the affection I held for Elena would never change. The word love seemed insufficient to express the deep feelings I had for her. Elena hugged me and whispered, I love you very much, I will love you forever. I joked, drunk words don't count. She laughed. Why wouldn't they count? I've loved you for a very long time, and now I finally get to be with you. 2 months later, Elena became pregnant. 9 months after that, we welcomed the birth of little Kevin. Although Elena couldn't always be around to care for him, my mother-in-law helped wholeheartedly, so I didn't have to struggle as a milk bottle dad. One night, after I finished the last illustration for the audio drama, the scene where the male lead shields the female lead with an umbrella, a scene I had drawn countless times, I was suddenly reminded of the moment I gave Elena my umbrella that day. I climbed into bed. She immediately snuggled into my arms and gently asked, in high school, why didn't you share the umbrella with me? I pulled the blanket over her and whispered, the umbrella was too small, both of us would have gotten wet. She smiled contentedly, rubbing her head against my chest. It turned out she remembered that small detail all this time. Extra story. Little Kevin. Even though I spent more time with little Kevin than Elena did, the first word the baby spoke was neither dad nor grandma, the people who always cared for him, but mama. The baby also had a special preference for police badges. Other toys meant nothing to him, but he held Elena's badge constantly, never letting go. One day, the baby was so fussy no one could soothe him, demanding to see his mother endlessly. I carried him to the Lu Corporation building to see Elena. As I was about to push open the office door, I heard a man's voice inside. Elena, if we date secretly in the office like this, what if your husband finds out? He'll be heartbroken. I was startled, and continued listening. Then I heard Elena's voice. He won't know. The man persisted, but I don't want to keep dating secretly like this. When can we officially go out to eat together? Elena replied flatly, little Kevin is still too young, he can't leave his father. When little Kevin is 3 or 4, I will divorce him. My heart went cold. It was true there was someone else outside. Does she not care about our marriage at all? I couldn't stand it anymore. Hugging little Kevin, I kicked open the office door. The scene that met my eyes was Elena sitting on a man's lap. I was so angry my blood rushed to my head, my eyes practically spitting fire. Elena, do you see me as a tool to raise your child? Elena showed no panic, still calmly sitting on the man's lap, smiling gently. I didn't expect to be found out. The man hugged Elena, provocatively saying, Mr. Ryan, looking at how weak you are, how are you worthy of my sister Elena? If it weren't for you two having a child, she would have divorced you long ago. I was so furious I couldn't help but curse, glaring at the two of them. Fuck you! Get out! I woke up with a start, opening my eyes to see Elena's face right in front of mine. Furious, I raised my hand and slapped her. Elena froze, clearly bewildered by the blow. I gritted my teeth and coldly said 2 words. Divorce. Hearing this, Elena's face turned icy. Divorce what? You want to divorce me? Yes. Go to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now. I jumped out of bed, searching for the household registration book in the drawer. Elena leaned against the bed, not stopping my insane actions, but shouting, It's the middle of the night, and you want to go get a divorce? I paused, looking at Elena's face, which was as dark as ink, sitting on the bed. Only then did I realize it was all just a dream. I had dreamed that Elena had someone else and wanted to divorce me, and because of that, I had slapped her. Seeing Elena's cheek slightly red from my slap, I immediately felt guilty. I awkwardly climbed back into bed, pretending nothing had happened. But Elena didn't let me off the hook. She gently lifted my arm, nestled into my embrace, and asked tenderly, What did you dream about that made you so angry? I glanced at her, guiltily whispering, I dreamed you had someone else and wanted to divorce me. Elena burst out laughing. You don't trust me? I replied softly, No, I do. Elena, you are everything to me. She looked at me skeptically, but continued to ask, You dreamed that and still say you're fine? I glanced at her and mumbled, How can one control a dream? Elena said softly, You can't control it, but I can. I was startled, looking down at her. Elena kissed me lightly on the lips and whispered, I won't let you have dreams like that anymore. I laughed faintly. Are you fooling a child? How can you control a dream? Her voice continued near my ear. And no matter what you dream or how angry you are, never hit me in the face. She rubbed her cheek, which was slightly red from my slap, and added, This is the first time I've ever been hit in my life. I didn't expect it to be by my husband. And it actually hurt. What she said about controlling dreams wasn't about literally controlling my dreams, but about giving me a feeling of absolute security. The next day, she transferred all her bank cards, houses, and assets under her name to mine. Now, I don't have a penny to my name, and no ability to go out and fool around. From now on, I can only rely on my husband to live. You have to support me for life. She used every means possible to give me a sense of security, using actions to love me. My wife. Meeting her was surely thanks to using up all the luck of my lifetime. The episode ends here. What are your thoughts on this episode? Please leave your opinions in the comments section.